Yeah, no more Tusken Raider brickheads, please. It's also like bigger than my head almost. Hello there. That was really bad. Right, first off, thank you for watching if you're here. Over the course of the last 6 or 7 weeks, I've made a number of predictions about what we could be in store for in Ahsoka, and more importantly, what we could be in store for in terms of Lego moving forward. So to start off, I'll go back to the beginning and we'll go back to Anakin and his return. It was rumoured he was going to return. We heard his voice in the trailer. He ended up being on the posters. Everyone kind of knew it was coming, but it was still awesome to see him. I don't think we'll see him in any sort of world between world dioramas. I think that in itself would be quite a boring diorama. There's not a whole lot you could do. It's all very black. Couple of little rings and stuff. You can mock that up yourself. I think if we do see Anakin again, it would probably be, and I hope we do, it'll probably be in the form of a Clone Wars rehash pack. It may be something in the form of the clone fighter tank that we see with Mace Windu that's retiring this year. I think if you got Anakin and Ahsoka with a clone fighter tank and maybe 1 or 2 clones and a couple of battle droids, I mean the battle droids are about £1 a penny, so it really doesn't matter. But if you got that set, maybe Anakin, Ahsoka, 2 clones, a fighter tank, I think that would be an awesome set. It would sell really well. It's a bit of a no-brainer, really. That brings us on to one of my first predictions, which was Sabine and her howler ride, as well as the little naughty creatures. What I actually think will happen now is I think you'll see maybe some sort of dual set where you get Shin Hati on a howler, as well as maybe it's Ezra, Sabine, and the little naughty transport. I think that would be quite a fun set. Yeah, I think that'd be a really cool set. I think to get Ezra and Sabine back together again and to have the little naughty transport, because there will be people that want those. I think those little naughty figures would be quite cool as well. And we will see a howler. I can't imagine where we don't see a howler. They've got it kind of looks quite similar. I'll see if I can put it on the screen to the General Grievous and Obi-Wan pack from 2005. 7522 maybe, can't quite remember off the top of my head, but one that I had as a kid, and you get Obi-Wan on the sort of howler looking ride, so I can't imagine it would be anything crazy for them to knock up to get one of those howlers. Obviously if you got a couple as well, you could then potentially put Sabine on one, and yeah, that'd be quite cool. So that's just a thought and a prediction for moving forward. Also, you've got Thrawn's Kitsui Night Troopers as well. I think these are really cool. I can't see them being in a battle pack anytime soon, just because of how long it's taken for us to get battle packs that we want, i.e. when there was a huge fan demand for the 501st battle pack and we didn't get one for a couple of years after. Really, I think what is more realistic is that you get them in paper poly bags that like you see in the European magazine. I think the only problem with this is that it doesn't allow for any variation. I think what's quite cool about these troopers is they've got variant different sort of ribboning and stripes on their arms and legs, as well as the sort of dusty, dirty white and grey armor plating. I think that's something that you can't really vary out with a poly bag, but if you were to get them in a battle pack, you could do 2 or 3 different styles at one time. So Thrawn's troopers, and that brings me on nicely to Thrawn himself. Now I can't see us getting Thrawn in a cheap set. It would be in a $130, $150 set, something like what we've seen with Moff Gideon in his light cruiser a year or 2 back in The Mandalorian. That's the kind of set I could see him coming in. I just don't think they'll put him in a set that is sort of £50-60 or dollars. I just don't see that happening, which is a bit unfortunate. What it does mean is if we do get him, say, in a Star Destroyer, his own Star Destroyer from Ahsoka, you potentially could see him there with Enoch as well. I thought Enoch was really sort of cool. At least the variation of his armor was really cool as well. Potentially as well with a Morgan Elsbeth. I imagine we'll get a different variation of Morgan Elsbeth without going into any spoilers, because this is probably going to be released a day or 2 after the finale. So for those that have seen, I think we'll probably get a different version of Morgan Elsbeth to the one that we got in the pack with Baylan and Shin. I don't think we'll get another Baylan minifigure. I must say, I thought Ray Stevenson was absolutely outstanding. He was just so stoic. He made simple bits of dialogue seem really thoughtful. Really appreciate his performance. I really like the way that it ended with him as well. I think that's possibly the best way to leave it. Like I said, Shin Hati, I imagine Shin will probably be in another pack, possibly with the Howlers and maybe some of the sort of scavengers of the land that we see in the last couple of episodes as well. I could see them being involved, potentially with their own Howler ride as well. So going back to Thrawn, where I see him is in a Star Destroyer. I see him being an expensive set and that set being in high demand. I think that's the way they're moving forward with most things. You see it with Phase 2 Rex coming in the Venator. I think that you'll probably see him a Star Destroyer of his own, probably at the back end of next year. One thing I've mentioned in a number of videos for anybody who is someone who follows what I'm doing here, I would love a UCS Ghost. I've got the September 1st one there just to the side. I've wanted a UCS Ghost since time began. Since the UCS began, I think we've had it for the Razor Crest, we've had it for the Venator, we've had it for all these other things. I think 2024 next year, the year of Rebels 10 year, I think we've got to see a UCS Ghost towards the back end of next year. And if you're going to do it, then you've got to do it where it's not the Ahsoka series, as nice little add-ins as sort of Lieutenant Hawkins is and Jason. I think you have to do it as a 10-year to the Rebels, and you have to do it with the full Rebels cast. There's a demand for Kanan, there's a demand for Zeb. I think that if you do this, you have to do it with the full cast of Rebels. Maybe even include Callus once Callus has come over to the Rebellion. Maybe it's very unlikely, but Wolf, Gregor, Rex. You know, there's sort of a list of possibilities. Definitely possibility to get Hondo as well. If you're going to do a UCS Ghost and it's going to be £700 or $700, I think that's the kind of set where you could put Hondo in, because the demand for Hondo is crazy considering. So anyway, I hope we get a UCS Ghost, and I've said that for a very long time. We also know that we're getting Brickheads in May, 2 of them for Star Wars, on May the 1st, for May the 4th. It's all speculation, of course, but there's obviously going to supposedly be a pack of 2 and 1 standalone figure. I imagine, despite there being rumours that it's Cody and Rex, I think if they put Thrawn on their own, it's an opportunity for them to sort of slightly lift the price on it as well, because people will want it. So I think if they're ever going to move the price up, and let's face it, the price seems to rise all the time, I think that it's probably when they put a Thrawn one out there. Some variation, I imagine, of Ezra, Sabine, Hera, maybe even Chop, and then Enoch and Thrawn. I think the only time where you could see Enoch is probably paired with Thrawn, kind of like you've seen with the Sith Troopers with Kylo, that kind of situation. So I imagine that would be what we'd be looking for, but I'd be really surprised if 2 or 3 of them aren't from the Ahsoka show. What I would like to see is something that I wanted to see when Rebels was out, which was the gunship carrier, which I'll try and put across the screen as well. This ship, I think, is really cool in design. It's nothing like we've had before with the Interceptor or a TIE fighter or a bomber. It's obviously quite a cool ship. It's not something that you could save to put in a UCS Thrawn Star Destroyer. Size-wise, it still wouldn't match up. Maybe that's a good time to put Enoch in. And I think it's also a good way for them to sell Night Troopers as well, because if you did a pack of sort of 3 Night Troopers that came with this set, which, let's face it, it's not going to be a huge build, I think that would be a really cool way of doing sort of the Imperial transport gunships. You could, of course, do Morgan Elsbeth with just the ring, hyperspace ring ship that gets attached to Thrawn's Star Destroyer. I think those are options for you. I think a really cool opportunity with Morgan Elsbeth, and you've got a few, is to put her with the Night Sisters in a sort of diorama, not quite a diorama, but like a temple of the Night Sisters build, where you've got the brickwork that goes up. The Great Mother could be just put in Thrawn's Star Destroyer, but I think you kind of can't really split them up. If you are, you're going to put the Great Mother in the big ship build, but I think it's just going to be the 3 Night Sisters. You could potentially do that as a build with, as I've just said, like the brickwork for the Great Mother's temple. So we've got Ahsoka the White as well. Obviously, behind me you can see the original Ahsoka from the T6 that was released on September 1st. Obviously, they couldn't make her white. First of all, it would have been a spoiler because the images are released months in advance, so it would have been well in advance of the show being premiered. What I do think we can see potentially moving forward is either they put her in a Star Destroyer style build with Thrawn and then Enoch and maybe the Great Mothers. What I do think will happen is you could potentially see her in a set with Morgan Elsbeth in a sort of duel scene. There's a bit of scope for that as well. Like I said, a bit of the brickwork from the sort of temple area. I think that would be an interesting duel scene. Again, I don't really subscribe to the theory that there'll be another Baylan minifig anytime soon. I think to have it as one is probably quite a fitting way to go about it. I think if we were ever going to see a Purrgil in Lego form, it's probably in the next 2 years. I don't necessarily think we'll get one. I don't think the demand's huge for one, but it would be a cool thing to add in as well. And you could, for those that display, could put it along with the T6 or with the Ghost if you want to go sort of all the way back to Rebels. Again, a difficult one because there's not really any minifigures that you could do. So I don't think it's going to be a hugely demanded set, but it is something they could potentially do because there is such an emphasis on them in the Ahsoka show. All in all, I'm really happy. I think we're in a really good place. I love Dave Filoni and I love what he's done. I think he's really opened up the Star Wars world. He's used Legends material. He's created something where we've got a new galaxy to go to as well. And I think what's awesome is it's not just an exciting time for Star Wars, but there's a lot of opportunities for Star Wars Lego as well moving forward. So it's just a really exciting time. Thank you for watching this video. I do appreciate it if you have made it to the end. Do drop it a like. Do comment as well if there's anything you think that you'd want to see, anything in terms of a diorama or anything like that that you might think, or a ship. Do let me know in the comments. I love it when I get to interact with you guys.